Cool. So the if we're looking at a cell, um, um, there are always little proteins on the outside which kind of help to signal the cell. Am I going to let stuff in? Am I going to keep it out? And these little proteins kind of act like a little bit of a lock and a key. So viruses target specific cells because on the outside of their membrane or on the outside of their capsid, they will have specific receptors which match up with the type of cell in a body or the type of other microorganism that they're targeting. So they bind to that receptors and often will enter into that cell that way. You really need to have a specific type of cell to be susceptible to that virus. So a good example is HIV. HIV will target particular cells called lymphocytes. They're white blood cells because it's got this particular CD4 receptor. What HIV does is it enters into the DNA of the host. It might be inactive for a number of years. So people can have HIV or be HIV positive without getting the virus, which is called, or the disease, which is called AIDS. And that just means that that DNA is sitting in the cell's DNA, and it's not yet replicating itself. It's just sort of sitting there. A lot of the drugs that are used to help with HIV basically stop the viral DNA from getting triggered and starting to replicate itself. So it just sits there and does nothing. And a lot of people can live normal lives roughly with HIV these days. But if it does get triggered, it starts to create once again, it would turn the cell basically into a viral creation factory. And that's when people start to get the AIDS virus. Cool. So that's HIV. And one of the, I guess, important things with dealing with viruses, we can't really, even if we get back to school, we're not going to be able to see any viruses or start to culture any viruses or anything like that. It's basically too dangerous because obviously you can't just grow viruses on a petri dish. They need cells. So for a start, we wouldn't get ethics approval. And also there's always a little bit of a risk that they might sort of infect you. We'll talk a little bit about how the body responds to viruses a bit later on. But that's the major things you need to know about viruses.